All right, we're recording, my friend. So, Jason Bridges, thanks so much for doing this chat with me, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. You know,
So,
I love talking about this subject matter.
yeah, absolutely, and we'll dive into it certainly. But I guess the purpose of the conversation, just for anyone listening for the first time, is I want to bring on individuals who have done some really neat, interesting things in their career, and they are currently doing interesting things and neat things going forward, and hopefully providing some entertaining, inspiring advice that can allow people to improve themselves on the personal development side. A lot of it's communication focused, and Jason, certainly you've been very focused on communication, especially emotional intelligence and relationship development, and that's been a big part of your life, it sounds like, and we'll jump into that for sure. Just quick background on Jason before we really dive into the nitty-gritty. Jason, you're from Muncie, Indiana.
That's correct. Yep.
You went to Wabash College and earned a degree in psychology and
Yep.
minored in chemistry. How'd you pick those two, by the way?
My grandfather worked for Eli Lilly
Okay.
in a pharmaceutical plant in Lafayette.
Okay.
So growing up, I thought I wanted to be like my grandfather.
Sure.
I'm going to be a chemist. So when I got to Wabash, chemistry was the route I was taking. And I think through my sophomore year, I realized how bad I was at it, how much I didn't like it.
Yep.
It was really difficult. And John Fisher, professor there, took me under his wing, convinced me in a very roundabout way or a very forceful way, said, like, you need to stop this. And I really enjoyed psychology, so I had enough credits to already have a minor. So I just kind of went into as a psychology major. Really enjoyed that. The professors I got along with, and that's kind of how that went.
And it's probably paid off extremely well to have that psychology as a fundamental baseline for the things you're doing going forward, right? I mean, just in life and entrepreneurship, generally speaking, I would assume.
Yeah, I think so. I think looking back, I realize how much I like. Child development was one of my favorite classes.
Really?
I love the development of people. Well, not just children, adults.
Right.
I love developing people. And I didn't know that really at the time, but looking back, it makes sense why that was so interesting to me, that subject.
So you certainly are engaging with people now because you're in Nantucket and you've got several different things going on. I'm sure we'll jump into a few of them, but Nantucket Bike Tours, you've got the Handlebar Coffee Shop. That's the name of it, right?
Yep.
Out in Nantucket, and I've seen pictures of it because one of my best friends did an internship for you at one point, and he thoroughly enjoyed it, learned a ton from you. And before we really dive into the things you're doing out there, I want to get people to understand from Wabash, how did you get to where you are now and making the decision to become an entrepreneur and really hit it hard out in Nantucket the way you've been working it?
Well, it definitely didn't start off as an entrepreneur or even wanting to go that route. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left Wabash. I thought I was going to go to teaching and coaching basketball.
Huh.
That was kind of my passion. I grew up watching Hoosiers every day before the basketball games. Like, that was my world. And I quickly realized I only wanted to teach so I could coach, and that seemed like that was the wrong way to go.
Okay.
And so after a year of exploring that, I came out to Nantucket. I had become friends with a student when I studied abroad in Venice through Wabash.
And you just got back from Venice.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
That's okay. And I called her up and said, "Hey, I'm kind of in between jobs. Do you mind if I just come out and just stay with you if I look for a job? Student loans are starting to hit. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was just going to come to Nantucket for one summer, just one summer. That was the deal."
And what year was that?
1999.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other thing I said, I wasn't going to work in the restaurant industry because I grew up in my dad's restaurant.
Oh, really?
And in the restaurants that he worked at.
Okay.
And so I was bussing tables at 14, or probably a year before I was allowed to legally work in Indiana. I'm sure I was working in a restaurant somehow. And so I said I wasn't going to work in a restaurant. So what do you think happened? I immediately went into the restaurant industry. And then 17 years later, I'm still on Nantucket. So, I mean, there's a lot of history in between there.
Right.
So go ahead.
So you worked at, it was a pizza shop that you were managing, right, in Nantucket?
Yeah, well, I was just prepping in the morning, and that was one of my 3 jobs I had that summer.
Okay.
And then they asked me to come back and manage.
Okay.
And then I ran that place for 10 years. And that's kind of where I learned a lot of my business knowledge.
Okay.
About halfway through, or maybe a third of the way through those 10 years, another owner came in that restaurant. and we got along really well. He worked in the insurance industry and owned a couple different restaurants, and he kind of threw me the keys and said, if you can hit these numbers, I'm going to be over here, run this place for me. And so that's where I learned from taxes to cash flow, like everything you learn probably with a business degree.
Right.
I kind of learned with him. He was kind of my business mentor, and that's where I learned kind of how to run a business and got the confidence, halfway through that, saying like, oh, I could do this on my own.
Yeah. And at some point you decided to do something on your own. I mean, outside of that, right?
Yeah.
How did you decide to make that leap, and what was the next step after that?
It was really random. I think in 2008, I was ready to branch out. And then when the bubble kind of burst and things got a little tighter, I thought maybe I'll hold on to this. It was a cushy job in the sense of I was paid really well. I was compensated really well. I liked what I did, but I had kind of outgrown it.
Okay.
So I stayed a couple more years, and then my girlfriend at the time, Courtney, we took a bike tour in Boston. We were away for the weekend, and on the way back on the slow boat back to Nantucket, you pull out a napkin and start sketching out how somebody could do a bike tour business on Nantucket. There weren't any. There's 5 bicycle shops.
And there were 0 people giving tours.
No tours.
Wow.
There's van tours, there's walking tours, there are no bike tours.
Wow.
So we start sketching it out, but the mindset was for someone else to do it, not us. So at the end of the boat ride, my wife looks at me and says, "Well, why don't you do it? Why don't we do it?" And that was scary. I was like, "Whoa, hey, no, we were just doing this for somebody else." And then the next day we kept talking about it, and then I got the courage to leave that well-paid job and that safety.
So you say somehow you got the courage. What was going through your mind at that time, and how did you ultimately make that decision to take the next step and do something else? Because that's not easy, right? I mean, that's
no. It in the beginning, it was really exciting, and then you start doing the numbers. Like you're looking at your bills and your mortgage and your car payment, and like, well, I got to make this and this business that's an unknown, that's a question mark. It was really scary. I think having a partner in crime, my wife, we just kind of hung together, and I left that job. I gave a 5-month notice because we got along really well, and so I tried to train the next person to take over, the restaurant, and then we just kind of jumped in. And then when it started, that's when the sleepless nights really hit. Waking up at 3 a.m, wondering if anybody was going to come to this party that you're throwing. Like you're throwing a $50,000 party, and what if nobody comes? Or 100,000 or $1 million or whatever business you start.
So, how long were you working on the business before you actually left managing the pizza shop?
About 5 months.
So
5 months.
As soon as you made that decision and started working on it, you gave them your notice, and it was that 5 months. What things were you doing in those 5 months leading up to it to prepare for starting the business?
Everything. Trying to figure out routes. Who's going to be who's our customer, right? Are they 40 to 60? Are they day trippers? Are they here for the summer?
Were you right? Your initial decision in terms of who you thought your target market was going to be, were you correct ultimately?
We were close.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably 50% day trippers.
Okay.
The corporate part we didn't know. We do a lot of corporate tours.
Oh, really?
So people who are coming here, taking their business or their clients here for 20 to 40 people, they're here for the weekend or a week, and they want to go outside and do something and get out of the kind of the workroom. That's really big for us. That's really nice. So we didn't expect that at all.
So that's a bonus that the corporations were coming in and utilizing your services. How did you get that word out initially that, hey, we're starting a bike tour on Nantucket. Would you like to check it out?
Well, we ran out of money really fast.
Really?
As you do for any startup. And this wasn't a big capital heavy.
Was it a personal, you and Courtney were financing this? Did you bring in any investors? Did it take that? What was it?
No, just her and I. Okay. Borrowed a little money from family and friends.
Okay.
And which we were able to pay back the first year, which was nice.
That's awesome.
That's cool. No big loans from banks. The one nice thing about this business, it wasn't capital heavy.
Yes. We
didn't have to raise $300,000 or $2 million to start this. Yes. It was very low capital. The risk for us was leaving our cushy, safe,
Right.
the job of safety,
Right.
or the safety feeling.
Did you have a plan B? Like if you said, if this doesn't work, this is what we're gonna do, or were you just like this has to work, this is gonna work, we're gonna make it happen?
Uh, Maybe not a specific plan B,
Okay.
but I had the confidence to know that you can always make more money.
Sure.
Like we could always find another job and work our ass off and make more money.
Yeah.
I can work 3 jobs. I knew I had that grit, the work ethic to do that, and it might take a while to build up. So, but I wanted to do something that really interested me, that I love doing, the activity of it during the day. I think you can work for a nonprofit or a job or a mission and love, love the mantra and love what it stands for. But do you like the activity of it during the day, every day, all year? Just the process that you're doing every day. I think that's a question we don't like. We want to be a police officer, or we want to own our own company, or we want to be a CMO of a company. But do you like the daily activities of it? Will that make you happy? And so bike tours, I knew would. Talking to people about Nantucket, showing them around a place that I really enjoy and love, and being on a bicycle outside, like that's a dream job.
Yeah. So you absolutely have to be a personable individual and connect well with the people and communicate well with the people if you're giving them a tour, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing to share the information. It's another thing to make it a great experience for that individual and the individuals that you're touring with. Have you always been very personable and people-oriented and a good communicator? How did you come about knowing, yes, I'm going to be totally okay with giving tours to 10, 20, however many people you give tours to at a time, and communicate with them in an effective manner?
I've not always been that way.
Okay.
I was handed a book when I was 23, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Is it that one?
That one right there.
I know we're
Yeah.
going to talk about that, so I had to bring it around.
Yeah.
Who gave you that book, Jason?
The original owner of the business, the pizza shop,
awesome.
Tom Hawkins, he handed it to me.
Awesome.
And I flipped through it. And to make a long story short, because it is a long story, I was in the car accident when I was 16.
Right.
I was a straight A student.
Right.
After that accident, with the brain damage, everything that happened, I had to learn how to read and write again. I had eye damage, hearing loss,
Wow.
Cognition issues. My memory's bad. I went from like a straight A student to struggling to get C's and D's.
Yes.
And the confidence went way down. So with this book and a lot of other things that happened in my life, I figured out my path to success is going to be with people and relationships. And once I figured out that I could improve my emotional intelligence, because my IQ was gone.
Yeah.
Not gone, but it was,
right.
I can't improve it. I can't, it went way down.
Right.
I have all these problems.
It wasn't going to be your X factor in trying to be successful.
No, definitely not. I'm not going to outthink you
Right.
or anybody in any room. My mind just doesn't move really fast.
Okay.
So emotional intelligence was my way to success. And Dale Carnegie was the beginning. I would just get any book I would just devour and I would start working on it. And this is before the bike tours. I refined it through my 20s. And in the bike tours, I had enough kind of people skills to be okay at it. And then I just took it to the next level because I was able to practice every day with not just people in the community walking down the street as well, but
what were
with
you practicing?
groups.
What were you practicing? Once you started reading this and you said this is an important thing to be able to do, I mean, were there specific things you were focusing on, or how were you developing those skills of emotional intelligence?
Big picture and small, and then
let's do big picture then, small picture, whichever you.
The big picture is two things.
Okay.
It's self-awareness.
Okay.
Understanding your emotions in real time as they're happening and not acting on them. That's
huge.
It's really
I
hard.
hear that a lot. Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you have an example of a time you were not emotionally or not self-aware, and then and then you find yourself in a similar situation now where you've developed that skill and it's been refined to the point that you can master your self-awareness?
Yeah, I mean, last week, I mean, it's just we can't change who we are. Like we're kind of born a certain way. It's just how we deal with it. Like you're going to get mad. The triggers that you have might be a little different than mine, but someone's going to trigger you, and you're still going to get angry or sad but how do you react to it? So when I try to teach people these things, don't try to change yourself. It's how you handle your emotions and being aware of them in real time. It's really hard to be able to talk about them in real time, but if you're mad, can you talk about that you're angry without being angry?
How does somebody train themselves on that? I mean, I almost feel like, I know I've looked into this before, tried to focus on it, but the fact of the matter is, you can't be as self-aware about yourself, or correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm saying this incorrectly, as someone else is about you and how you react. So what if, I don't see myself reacting poorly, and I think, well, that's a natural way to react, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, how do you start to get a better understanding? How do you develop that self-awareness?
With practice, and I think talking to people about it as well. I had one friend, Heather, who was leaving the islands. We had a lunch before she left just to say goodbye, and she said, "Jason, here's some advice. Before I leave, smile more." Huh. And I said, "What? I'm the happiest guy around." And she's like, no, like when I see you walking down the street, you have like a scowl on your face. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, because in my head, yes. I feel happy. Yes. I'm ready to talk to people.
Yes.
And so I kind of, lightly argued with her. Right. She said, Jason, look in between your eyebrows. There's a tan line because you scowl so much. And there's a little white line in there. And so that was a realization for me of how I feel and how I think I look is yes. not how I'm being perceived. And so that changed everything for me in that moment.
So I just listened to a talk you did from back in the spring. It's on YouTube. And you talked about smile bombing. What is that?
One of the things that we do for the internship with the bike tours, you have to practice these things. So we'll say, okay, today we're going to smile bomb as many people as you can, and let's see how many victories, like wins you can get. So if you're walking down the street, now I wouldn't suggest this in London or New York or certain areas, right? But in your community,
okay,
somebody's walking by, make eye contact with them and just smile, and see if you can get them to smile back to you, and see when it works and when it doesn't work. Is it you? Is it them? And just we work on this throughout a whole week. That's all we'll talk about at night. Like, just how many victories did you have in smile bombing? Did somebody smile bomb you?
How many victories do you typically have? I mean, do you have a percentage? Do you keep track of what do you think the percentage is of a number of people that will actually smile back once they smile at an individual?
It's definitely the majority, not the minority. If you smile at somebody, they're gonna, they might not give a big smile back to you, but they
start to make the move, right? I mean, that's typically in my experience too. You smile at somebody, and they at least, even if they seem pissed off, they start to go in the direction of I'm going to smile, and then they realize, oh, I'm smiling, and they kind of shut it down. But they at least make the progression towards a smile.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
That's a way to do it, just to practice it. And I think if you're going to be a leader in your community or in your in the floor of your building or wherever it is, your church, like, you have to engage with people. And sometimes you might not feel like smiling, but if you start smiling, then you will. It's like that weird, like, I don't want to smile. Well, if you smile, you'll want to smile.
Yeah.
So learning how to smile at people, that's like the very first level that we work with, the students or my staff at the coffee shop. Is just smiling.
And what are the other practices that you discuss with your interns or employees to start working on those communication skills, like smiling?
Well, so if you go back to the bigger picture, you have the self-awareness.
Yes.
Just trying to figure your own stuff out, figuring out how you're perceived. What are you good at? What do you like? Figuring all that out. Then the other part is engaging with the people around you. And then that is a whole, there's small talk, there's body language, there's smiling, there's tone, there's being interested in them. And this is where Beanie comes into play.
So you've told me about it before, but explain to anyone who's listening your concept of Beanie.
So Beanie, which is an acronym, BINI, is be interested, not interesting. So there's a line in one of the Dale Carnegie chapters that talks about that. And so I just took that little piece out and we put it on everything. It's on our hats. We write it everywhere just to remind ourselves just to be interested in your fellow human, the fellow people, the people around you. Just be interested.
And what kind of things can people do to become interested or show their interest as they're talking with other people?
Oh, first off, just to listen.
Okay.
Just listen. Don't wait for you to stop talking because I got the next thing I want to say. Like really be present and listen. And that's the first step.
All right. Now with listening, I feel like I've had people tell me if I'm in a conversation, they'll say, "No, I was listening," but something about them tells me like they were paying zero attention to what I was saying. Are there things you can do to show to another person that you really are intently listening, and how do you develop that skill, I guess? Also,
again, it goes back to practicing. I think you have to read these books. You have to surround yourself with other people who, the 3 levels of mentorship, who help you, who like to talk about this stuff. It's got to be a part of your life. It just can't be, you read a book, you try it for a little bit, and then in 2 years from now, you pull up Dale Carnegie again. You have to continue to exercise that part of your brain that can grow, because the IQ part doesn't grow anymore. And I'm sure there's smarter people who say, "Oh, that's this part of the brain, Jason." I don't remember the labels,
right. But that's
I know
the practice of it.
From my experience and the students I work with, my staff that I work with, you get better at it the more you practice it, and you feel more confident, and then you just keep going up to the next level. It's never ending, but it's very satisfying.
So what are the other things you're teaching your interns as far as communication and EQ? And you touched on a little bit. You said there's more than just the verbal communication, right? So what are some of the other things that have been extremely important in developing rapport and connecting and communicating as you're giving the tours or as you're teaching your interns to give the tours and interact and connect with people?
I think your introduction, when you first meet somebody, I think they've done studies where it's like 0.02 seconds someone makes a judgment on you.
Wow, that's fast.
It's pretty fast. So if you're not smiling and you don't have the open body language,
okay,
then their subconscious is already going to say, not friendly, I can't connect with this person, even though you might not think that. So we work a lot on when you first meet somebody for the first time, and what is your position? Are you closed up? Are you sitting down? Are you going towards them? Do you lean in just a little bit?
Are you telling people they should lean in?
A little bit, not too much. You don't want to be aggressive.
Okay. Can they do like the bro hug? I mean, is that appropriate or not necessarily?
It depends on the situation.
Okay.
Depends on who it is.
So you've got to be self-aware enough about the situation and what's going on around you.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. A good friend of both of ours, Carl Rivera. He can walk in any room, and he has this aura about him because he smiles and he has this energy, and he could hug anybody and people would accept it.
Yes.
People who don't usually like hugs.
Right.
Carl could do it. So how could he do it and someone else can't? Right? All those little things that equal up to be, your energy.
Right.
It's his smile. It's the way his body is positioned. It's how he moves. It's the tone of his voice.
Yes.
Right? It's his excitement and his energy. You're like, who is this guy? So,
and you could, obviously Carl's very good at that. And there are individuals who just almost seem like they're natural at it. And they just, because they're natural, they keep practicing because it's their daily routine. Couldn't you teach someone that though? Is that the idea with what you're doing with your interns? Do you think you can get people to a level where they are that able to connect with someone at that level and show that kind of energy?
Yes, I think extroverts can do it and introverts can do it. I've had other people I've worked with who are introverts who are just as successful, and they're quieter and they're listeners, and they're not going to come after you. They might not come after you, give you the hug, but they're going to give you that same feeling that they're really interested in you. And so I think it can go either way. You don't have to be the Carl Rivera, and I'm more similar to that too. I want to come in and hug everybody. And I'm really excited to get to know you, and but you can be just as successful, and sometimes maybe even more if you're an introvert.
So one of the other things you touched on in your talk that I listened to, Jason, was the 3 H's. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So for our coffee shop, the way we engage with our customers, we have just a little kind of mantra or strategy. It's hugs, handshakes, and high fives.
I like that, by the way. That's cool.
It's kind of the H's with the
Yeah,
handlebar. Kind of
absolutely. Yeah, oh yeah, there you go.
yeah, it made sense. So there's different times where it's appropriate to connect with somebody, just to shake their hand, right? To connect with them. And other times you want to give them a high five, and other times it's a hug. And you have to read the situation, you have to read the person, but we're always trying to engage. So in a coffee shop, we have an imaginary line where we try to engage with people before they hit the counter. It's way before the counter. And it could be eye contact, it could be a smile, it could be a hello. And then once they're there, it depends on how busy we are. A lot of my staff go around the counter and they give a hug.
Wow.
And a lot of those are regulars, but I encourage it.
Yes.
And I give them hugs. But then there's half hugs. And there's like you said, the bro hug. It doesn't matter exactly how you do it. The more you do it, the more you read the situation.
Read the situation, and you probably have to have an understanding of your own comfort level with it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which probably gets back to self-awareness. So the other thing, one of your newest projects is also blogging, right?
I'm trying to jump that hurdle of the fear of writing. Yes.
Awesome, and we'll touch on that too. But I read one of your blogs, and it talks about one of the other things you do at the handlebar as someone comes in is you'll write their name on their cup. And your article was about names. I just want you to touch a little bit on the importance of that, because I think it's huge, the remembering names and utilizing them, and how have you implemented that into your businesses? Because you mentioned several things about the different companies you have and how you implement the names.
So I'll start my reply with, I went to a really nice coffee shop in Boston a month ago. They've got it down. Their processes are tight. Their coffee's really good. It's modern. And when I walked in, I had some envy. I'm sitting there like, man, I need to up my game a little bit. And then the more I sat there and watched, I felt better. They don't have the connection that we have with customers. Now they're busy too, but they don't do names, and that's a big thing for us. When somebody comes in, this happened yesterday to me. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. What is your name?" I had seen this person before. And she said, Katie. And she said, like, I'm the only one here, though. I said, oh, we just want to know your name, And then we write the name on the cup, and we're not going to get it confused with anybody. That's not why we do the names. We could yell out large skim latte.
Right.
No, we want to yell out Katie.
It's personalized.
Right, and it's very important. And then the second time, if they're busy, we'll say large skim latte Katie. But we always say the name.
Okay. Because
people love hearing their name. I love hearing my name. You love hearing your name.
Jason.
Like it's JJ. When you see a picture of a group of people and you're in it, who do you look for first? Everybody looks for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? We like ourselves and we like our names. If you're going to give me a couple $1 million to start a foundation and build something, we're going to put JJ's name. We're going to put your name on it.
Nice.
Like we love names. So when we ask somebody's name, they say it, we repeat it back to them, and we write it on the cup. And then we get to say it again. So it does a couple things. We get to remember, we hear it, we write it, we see it, we say it again. So it helps us remember their name. But then they get to hear us say their name twice. And it's just little things that connects them to us.
Now, you're extremely involved in the Nantucket community, and I'm sure you go to networking events, you're involved with Chamber of Commerce. So outside of the coffee shop, whether it's with the bike tours or in any other capacity, if you're networking, how are you utilizing names and making sure you're saying people's names or remembering names? I mean, what's that process like for you?
Everybody says, not everybody, majority of people say what? I'm terrible at remembering names.
Yes, I hear that all the time.
So whenever you hear that, say, if you continue to say those words out loud,
yes,
you will be terrible at remembering names.
Yes. And
so when I hear it, I always I stop them and say, just reword what you're saying. Say, I'm usually not good at names, but I'm working on it. And you're stopping your brain from taking the easy way out, neuron-wise.
I was going to say, there's got to be some psychology behind that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Whether it's fake it till you make it or just telling yourself something, you can, self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right.
I try to use names as much as I can. And the last couple of years, I've gotten over, if I can't remember somebody's name and I should,
Yes.
and I've known them for years,
Yes.
I just tell them. Sometimes they don't like it, but I don't try to sneak around it.
Right.
I'll just say, I'm spacing on your name. Oh, I have a block right now. And they'll be like, George. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need more coffee.
That's never extreme. So you're playful with it.
Yeah. Instead of just being like, hey, how's it going? Because if somebody says that, they don't know your name.
Right.
But I think if you know somebody's name and you can, this will sound weird, can touch them, back to the hugs, handshakes, and high fives. Right. The oxytocin that fires when you touch somebody, when you put your hand on their shoulder, shake their hand.
Right.
Like those things are really important to connect. One thing I want to say, I want to put a little asterisk mark in all of this.
Okay.
You can use these skills for evil. And you can't use them to manipulate. I teach that with our guys because we can get into complimenting if you want and showing appreciation.
Yes. There's
always questions in the beginning of, well, should I tell them I like their shirt when I don't? When I'm trying to give somebody a compliment? And I'm just like, no, you can't. You have to. It has to be honest.
By the way, when I said I liked your shirt at the beginning of this conversation, I was dead serious. I love that shirt's awesome, man. Is that a purple or a pink though?
We got pink floral going on.
Okay, cool. Well, I have a purplish shirt, so we had a similar thought. We didn't even talk about it, but yeah, I really like it. It makes you stand out. That's my kind of shirt. Anyways, continue.
You really have to be genuine about it.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who use these superpowers, people skills for the wrong reasons.
To be negatively manipulative or just get what they want.
Yep. Yeah. The bad side, all the stuff that, Never Eat Alone talks about, just the bad side of networking.
Right.
I'm just trying to do something so I can get what I can get, or I'm going to help you only to get help back. Right. Those kind of things.
Right.
I just want to throw that out there before this ends.
Yeah. So it certainly is important to note that you genuinely, authentically have this desire to help other people, know their names, make them feel good and have a great experience while they're A, with you, or B, at your companies, right? I mean, a big part of what you're doing is providing that experience. What are some of the things you're doing to make sure people are having a good experience, whether they're outside of the things we've already touched on, whether at your coffee shop or on the bike tour?
Other things. I think one thing that we haven't got into a lot is we started to being interested in somebody else. So listening is first, but then asking questions, real questions. And it doesn't matter if you think you have nothing in common. Like, you can learn something from everyone. I think there's a great quote that, every man is your superior in some way. Well, and find that, you can learn something from everybody a lot. And so asking questions is not, one, it makes them feel good, and you get to learn something.
Right.
I mean, that's great for both parties.
Right.
So I think we do that with our bike tours. It's a different version in the coffee shop because it's a shorter amount of time.
Right.
We're not with it for 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
It's a little more intimate of a setting. Coffee shop's quick. Sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes, but you can still, there's different versions, you still can connect, and it's just asking questions. But we try not to say, how are you? I train my staff to, how are you? It's too big of a question.
Okay.
How are you? Then they'll just say good.
Okay.
But if you say, well, what brings you downtown? Something maybe a little more specific, a little more, it's a little different. Or you ask about their watch, or you compliment them on their shirt. Where did you get it? Versus always just like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
When you have that 2 minutes to connect with somebody.
So are there better ways to ask questions than others? Obviously, I guess the answer is yes from the way you're positioning it, but how can you start to ask better questions? To dig further, I guess.
I think to put your focus on the person in front of you. If you just say, how are you? You can say that to anybody. Not really. You can kind of be doing something else.
It's not customized to that individual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of different examples of that.
Let's go to, sorry to interrupt, but let's go back to, I want to hear you talk about complimenting. Because I obviously you're talking, you touched on that in your talk, and I think it is, I've talked with Lauren about this before, because a lot of times someone will say, hey, I like your shirt, or I like your shoes, and you're like, oh, thanks, I like yours too. And it almost feels awkward sometimes. I thought you did a really great job talking about how to accept compliments and or how to give compliments in your talk. So will you touch on that? Now, you had a great example too of when it became important to you from meeting a famous person. But yeah, touch on that for us, if you will, Jason.
So compliments are a really funny thing. I usually have a ball when I explain this to staff, and I'll hand the ball. I do this on little retreats too, on bike tours. We'll stop somewhere and I'll get everybody in a circle and I hand the ball and say, okay, throw the ball in the air, like to me, and give me a compliment at the same time, like whatever. It could, nice, like your shirt, like your shoes.
Right.
And so they throw the ball up in the air, and then I bat it away and say, no, not these shoes, not these old things. And so, because it's a nice visual thing to say, like, that's
what you're doing. Yeah,
that's what most of us do. We reject the compliment. We just say, no, not like this old thing, or we just flat out reject it. And so then I give them the ball back and say, okay, do it again. And then they throw me the ball and say, hey, I like your shirt. And I catch it, throw it right back and say, I like your shirt. So we reject it or we reflect it.
That's an interesting way to really solidify what that looks like.
Yep.
In terms of receiving a compliment and giving one back. Tell me the story about Tim. So I love that story. I thought that was pretty cool.
So what I try to teach, and this is hard to do, is just to accept the compliment. Someone gave me a really nice compliment yesterday. I'm spacing on what it is, but I felt that it was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like how, so I just said, thank you. I really appreciate that. I just accepted it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can get a compliment, you can accept it, say thank you, and then pass it on. Not reflecting it,
right,
but pass it on. Who helped you get there? So when I get compliments on the coffee shop, how nice the staff is, I say thank you. I really appreciate it. But my staff works so hard, and they do. We're really lucky to have such a nice staff. I try to pass it on a little bit. So years ago, when I was in the pizza shop running that, I was reading about compliments and gratitude and appreciation,
right,
and I was getting the idea for this whole accept and pass idea. And Tim Russert, who I was a big fan of, Meet the Press, ABC Nightly News, comes in. He has a house on Nantucket, but I'd never seen him before.
Right.
And he did have a house. He passed away years ago. So he comes into the pizza shop. This must be 10 years ago, to pick up pizzas. I'm at the front, and I hand him this pizzas. We go through the transaction. I say, Mr. Russert, just wanted you to know that I love watching Meet the Press. You are a great interviewer, and it must be really exciting to, something like that. It was quick. And he said, thank you. I really appreciate that. And then he passed it on to his staff. So I couldn't do it without my production team and everybody that works on the show. They make my job really easy.
Wow.
And it was just like,
there's my perfect example of how to pass it on.
Yeah. I already looked up to him,
right, just
from a celebrity figure. But when he did that, and he did it so, it was honest. It was genuine the way he did it. And so I was like, I want to be like that. Like that's how I want to take a compliment. So Tim Russert.
That's awesome. I love that story. I thought that was pretty cool. And I know in your talk you said, and then I went and jumped around. You're so excited that you had just met him.
Yeah.
But speaking of looking up to people, and you've touched on this a little bit, and you've said this to me before, but you're also a huge believer in this idea that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also a huge believer of having mentors as some of those people that you spend your time with.
Yep.
How do people go about finding mentors? I mean, is it just, hey, you look at someone and say, hey, will you be my mentor? I mean, what type of person should you look to ask to be your mentor, or whatever process it looks like for trying to have someone as your mentor that you're modeling and learning from?
I think it's easiest to let it kind of come naturally and try to fill the 3 levels of the mentorship. Like, you need people above you in a sense that are more experienced in a certain area to help you. and you need people that are kind of equal to you, that are your peers, that you can mentor each other. And then you need to be a mentor. You need all three you need one for the other two to work. You need two for the other one to work. I think it's really important to have all three levels.
How are you finding who are your mentors, Jason?
Well, Rick, who had the pizza place, who
Still
threw me the
mentor.
keys. He was a business mentor. I mean, he was so patient with me when I was I needed a lot more experience.
Yeah.
He was so patient.
Wow.
And he taught me so much about business. Even today when we meet, we're just talking about the Nantucket economy, or
wow.
I learned so much from him.
How often do you get together with Rick?
Probably three or four times a year.
Okay.
Yeah, he comes to Nantucket. He still owns one business here, so we try to meet up.
Okay. Does he know he's your mentor? I mean, does he look at it like that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've told him
okay.
many times. I don't have any problem telling people how I appreciate them.
Right.
So
who else do you try to connect with that have been extremely helpful for you?
What's interesting for me is the interns that I have for Wabash end up becoming my peer mentors very quickly after they leave here. And for me, they come very quickly at my level or are above in certain ways. So whether it's Cole Crouch, I mean, definitely going to be my mentor in so many ways. He's already helped me with my writing.
Wow.
So I go right to him. That's a big insecurity for me is writing, and so
which is why you're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I just had to get over it and just Seth Godin. I heard a talk he did recently.
Yes.
And
you have the Seth Godin story, don't you?
Yeah. I got just a couple of Seth Godin stories, but he. In the presentation that I saw, he said about writer's block. He said it's bullshit. It's made up. There's no such thing. Be inspired that you're writing a blog. Don't wait to be inspired to write your blog. And as soon as he said that, I pulled my phone and had to write that down.
Yeah.
Like that made a lot of sense to me. That we just have all these excuses, and I had started trying to write before I had heard that, but that was great. I just lost. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let me ask you. There are a few more questions I want to make sure we get to, and then we can touch on a couple other things. But I want to be conscientious of your time too. For any college students who are looking for internships, or they're seniors and they're looking for their first jobs or careers, what advice do you give them? Not just in terms of, well, this is how you should put together your resume, this is how you should connect, but also like how should they be thinking about their next steps after college and their career path, or if they're early, they're 2-3 years out of school, what kinds of things should they be thinking about as they're looking at their career?
Building relationships and working on their soft skills, their people skills. I mean, I think if you have went to Wabash or you went to school, you've been successful there, whether it's GPA or you were involved a lot, what separates you is how you interact with people. And that's the busy piece that in all of our education systems, whether it's, primary, secondary, college, universities, graduate school, business schools, we don't teach these things. And it's not just this is how I got ahead, but it's those people stand out. If you take 4 or 5 people who all have the same brain power, who all can do this particular job, who's going to work best with people? Who's going to make other people better? Who's interested in everyone around them? It's not just it's a team player too, but I think those skills separate you, and you have to work on them and put yourself in positions, in situations to improve. That's what stands out for me. I mean, when I get resumes and I get somebody who has a 4.0, I kind of put it to the side. I throw it away.
Interesting.
Because I know they put in zero time into it. I don't have enough time to work on them in like the 10-week program that I have. I'm kind of looking for the guy who's hungry, who's got the grit, and has the buy-in, understands the value of learning these skills.
Right.
So and on one sense, the 4.0 student, they need these things,
right?
But they're not willing to get their nose out of the book, right? Please lower your GPA.
Yes. That was a great talk, by the way. Honestly, I enjoyed it. You had multiple times in there where you got the people laughing, and I felt like you made one joke. I forget which one it was, but I almost feel like you were hoping to get laughs, and you did. And you're like, all right, I think they went for that. All right.
It was probably the DePaul joke.
It was, yes. Yeah. So people need to be working on their social skills and their networking and their soft skills and how they're developing those relationships and connections as they're looking for jobs. What about individuals that want to be, whether they're in college or out of college, they want to be their own boss. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to start some kind of company, whether it's something they want to do full-time or some kind of side hustle. I mean, what's your advice to an entrepreneur or someone who wants to be an entrepreneur?
If you truly want to be an entrepreneur and that's your calling, do not go to college. You're wasting your money and your time. Go get experience right now. Get experience. And so for me, I had to go to college. I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I needed the college experience, and a lot of us do. So for those people who kind of want to be an entrepreneur, but don't know how to get there, go get experience. I don't care if it's volunteering for the local newspaper in the college you live at. Like, go get experience with other people outside of your college. So it's internships in the summer, but don't go to Cancun and get wasted on your spring break. Go get experience with an alumni. Like, every school has these great alumni connections.
Yes.
Go work for somebody for free. Go hustle and get experience and ask people questions and shake their hands and connect with them on LinkedIn and ask them out for lunch. Those kind of things. I think when you ask.
Sorry, I want you to touch on that because I think that's important for people to make sure they understand. Talk about asking people for coffee and lunch, whether it's a cold call or not, and the importance of that and what you're trying to get out of. Are you still doing that? Do you still reach out to people and say, hey, let's grab coffee or lunch?
I haven't in this last 6 months as much as I'd like, but okay. I do try to.
Okay.
Right.
And what are you trying to get out of that? Just learn to develop a relationship with that individual, trying to get one particular thing? I mean, what do those look like for you when you do them?
I try to pick people that I want to do two things. I want to just generally get to know them.
Okay.
And I find them interesting. And then hopefully also there's questions that I can ask so I can learn from them a little bit. That most people take that as a little BS. They're like, what do you want?
Right. Totally.
They're always
what
waiting.
business do you want from me?
Something. Like, what are you trying to get out of this? And usually you can address that right in the beginning. I'm not trying to get anything. I'm just trying to get to know you. I think you're very interesting here, or here's what I find interesting about you, or what I admire about you. I just kind of want to get to know you. That can be weird for some people.
Yeah.
But I think you have to throw it out there.
Yeah. So what kinds of people are you specifically trying to connect with now? Who are you trying to build relationships with? A particular type of person? Who are you reaching out to these days? I know you haven't done the coffee lunch thing in a while, but certainly you're still making connections and reaching out, I would assume, especially for your businesses. But
I think right now I'm spending a lot of time still developing people. All my extra time. I have a couple staff at the coffee shop that I'm really trying to work with, like dig into and help them on nothing to do with the coffee shop, just whatever their goals are. Like, what do they want? What are they trying to do? How can I help them?
Awesome.
How can I help them get there? And then the internship that we do with the Wabash students,
yes, we
have found that the last 2 or 3 years, when they go back to Wabash, we have a weekly call for a half hour to keep them on track. So we're extending the experience that we do here in the summer. So every Thursday I talk with 3 guys who are still at Wabash, and we work on at the end of August we do stretch goals. And so I say, what do you want? So stretch goals, like
what's that?
You have a goal, but it's like you're really stretching your way out there. Like, it's kind of hard to achieve. Okay. And when you're in college, looking 5 months ahead seems really far away. As you get older, 5 months isn't that far. You know it's coming fast. But a whole semester, that's like, it's way out there. Yeah. So at the end of August, I will say, you're driving home after finals, wherever that is, Indianapolis, Michigan. What needs to happen for you to say, man, I kicked ass. That was a great semester. What has to happen, right? Are you captain of the basketball team? Is it GPA? Is it knowing every person that walks in the library? Is it getting to know the faculty better? Is it being the president of your house? What is it? Is it something with your family? Is it something with a relationship with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever? What does that look like? What does success look like December 12th or 15th when you're driving home? It doesn't always have to be with school.
Right.
And so we figure what that is, and then we reverse engineer it back. And that's kind of what...
Meaning reverse engineer in terms of the things you have to then be doing to get there.
Right.
Okay.
You reverse engineer it back from, like sub-level things and then to like very specific things. And then we just kind of stay on that track. So today...
So as much as you might not be reaching out and having new coffee meetings and lunch meetings, you're developing the relationships right where you are with your employees and your interns. And to your point earlier, those relationships are continued going forward, and you're continuing to learn from these individuals. So that's fantastic. I think that's a great mindset, Jason, honestly, that to know that you can learn from anybody is huge, because I've picked up so many things from people along the way that are still Wabash students right now. I have one conversation with them, and I realize, holy smokes, I never knew that before. I appreciate that perception or perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's changing your mindset of not being intimidated by people. Like, oh, they might know more than me. Right. And then switching around saying like, oh, they know more than me. Yes. I want to talk to them.
Yes, I want to absorb all of that.
Yeah.
So you've got 100 things going on, right? I don't know the exact number. A lot going on. I looked up a few different things on your Twitter. It says new projects, and that lists your blog and then another thing. What's the Entrepreneur Escapes about?
About a year ago, sorry, it's falling off. About a year ago, 4 of us got together on Nantucket, and we started Entrepreneur Escape. And it was for locals and people from off island to come for 3 days and just kind of have a retreat. Okay. Retreat and get away and think about their business from a financial standpoint to the life work balance, all those different things. So we brought in speakers. It was the first year. We didn't get our stuff together to do it this year. Okay. So we're hoping to do it the next year. So that was.
So when did you do the first one?
It was January of this past year, but
okay,
yeah, which is a great time. You come to Nantucket, like there's not a lot open.
Right.
It's quiet. It's winter.
Yes.
But we had a nice little kind of venue where we had different speakers. It was small enough.
How'd you bring in speakers? Who'd you decide to bring in, and how'd you reach out to them? You said, "Hey, come do this," or are you paying the speakers based on the ticket price of people that are coming in for the retreat, or what?
I think a couple we paid, and some were local, some were had houses on Nantucket.
Okay.
We had connections, so everybody was trying to pull in 2 or 3 people.
Interesting.
To talk. It was fun.
So it sounds neat. I'm gonna have to check that out at some point. I just briefly saw it and wanted to ask you about it, but a couple other things I know you've touched on before. One being your blog, and the other being your edict, if you will, for 2016. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but the idea that you're going to say yes to everything.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, you've been saying yes to everything. It just happens now.
Yeah.
Why did you make that decision, and are you still doing that?
I think I wanted to say yes to anything that made me uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so
like the
blog. Absolutely the blog. Like that was definitely don't like doing it. And it's a stupid insecurity of mine, as all insecurities we feel are stupid. But it was a big one, and I just feel like I couldn't write, and it's probably connected back to my accident and not feeling this inferiority of not having the brain power. And so I just started get over. I can't tell people to get over their issues, and if I don't try it as well. Yeah. So 2016 was the year where I just say yes to everything.
And you're still saying yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you know about the latest one, the skivvies.
Tell me about that.
So I've never acted before.
Okay.
I've never. My father's tone deaf, and I'm right there, so I can't really sing.
Okay.
I didn't act in college or high school, so I don't play a musical instrument. Never learned how to play anything. So the local theater here, the Nantucket Theater Workshop, came to me and said, "Hey, we have this group coming in, and we'd like." They usually pick 1 or 2 local celebrities.
And that's you. You're on the list.
I guess I was on the list.
Man, that's awesome. Aren't
So
you the honorary mayor or something?
I used to be, yes.
Used to be. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Continue.
And they pick local celebrities, 2 people to go up on stage and perform with them. And it's a group from New York who tours all around, and they do all these covers of it, from a song from the 70s to Britney Spears, and they use no kind of electrical instruments, anything to make sound they use, and they're hilarious.
Wow.
So they're musicians, they're actors, they're really good.
Wow.
And so they use like the bare bones of musical instruments. So they're called the skivvies.
Okay.
But after their first or second number, they take all their clothes off and they're in their underwear and they're in their skivvies playing instruments like the skivvies.
Right.
So you have to go out and perform with them and take all your clothes off and your underwear. So I thought about it for a second and I said, you know what? Yes, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Well, you had to. You said you were saying yes to everything.
Yeah. So they get here late because of bad weather for Labor Day weekend. And so we had about a half hour to rehearse. And I was rapping Ignition by R. Kelly.
That's awesome.
It's
what?
live.
I missed that. Say that again.
Ignition from R. Kelly.
Right. Yes.
That's what I had to rap because I can't sing. So what we came up with was me with my mayor hat to do this in front of 250 people with them playing live instruments. And I memorized the lyrics. That wasn't the hardest thing.
Okay.
Staying on beat, I didn't think about that because you kind of got to, it's live.
Right.
And so I went out and did the first verse and then took my clothes off in my little boxers in front of all these people with a mayor's hat on, doing Ignition as the mayor. And it was, I tell you, 2 sleepless nights. Why did I do this? I'm going to screw it up. People are depending on me. I really went through it.
Leading up to it 2 nights before.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the greatest thing that I'd probably done this year for personal development.
Really?
To getting me out there and doing it. I felt the adrenaline I felt during and after. It was good.
Wow.
For a couple of days, I wanted to do it again. I started thinking, like, could I act? Could I do improv? Like all the. So doing things that challenge you.
Yes.
It's so important.
Yes.
I mean, it builds your confidence. It's like if you're scared to go to Toastmasters and work on public speaking, then you need to go to Toastmasters and work on your public speaking. Yes. It's just those are the things that are going to help you get ahead and help you grow. And it's hard to find those situations that can to push you forward enough. Like you really got to be uncomfortable to be able to grow.
And what are some things, is there anything on the horizon that you're looking at to continue to put yourself in a position to be uncomfortable besides the writing and blogging?
Uncomfortable or kind of excited, comfortable. I was asked to do a TEDx speech.
No kidding.
Presentation.
That's awesome.
That's a lot of pressure. You got cameras, you got 18 minutes.
You've done it or it's coming up?
It's coming up in January.
Oh, really? On Nantucket?
It's TEDx Wabash. So
really? That's awesome. January what?
I want to say 20th, but don't quote me on that.
I'm going to have to look that up. That's awesome.
And then there's another thing that's connected to Wabash. This coming spring break, I'm going to teach an EQ class for the week of spring break to 12 to 15 students at Wabash.
Really?
So it's going to be a scaled-down version of the 10-week program we do with the students here.
Wow.
It'll be a little different. So I'm really excited about that. And I guess there's a little nervousness there.
Are you working with Roland on that or someone else to help get it together?
I'm not sure exactly which kind of department it's going to be under,
gotcha.
but
you're structuring it.
Yeah, I'm working with Professor Sarah Drury.
Okay.
But I'm going to be teaching it and, getting out. It's not going to just be sitting around doing classwork. We're going to be smile challenging at downtown Crawfordsville,
awesome.
Walmart. I haven't figured everything out.
Can alumni participate? Because I'd love to come back and participate in your course, man. That'd be so cool.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of a networking event that we could do, just to get students in situations and learn how to act in those situations and really awesome. Ask questions, but really be interested, not interesting.
Yes.
Beanie.
Got that. Yeah. I like that. So what's your what's your mission right now that you're on, Jason? I mean, what's your ultimate goal? What are you working for? What are you doing right now that's getting you excited? I mean, what are you looking out towards to accomplish?
I figured out years ago that I love developing people. I love coaching. That's my passion. So I like bikes. I like coffee, but they're not my passions. I do the bike tours and I have the coffee shop because I love developing people. I love engaging with customers, but I love developing staff. So that's my passion. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's where, at the end of the day, that makes me feel like $1,000,000 when I've helped somebody and helped develop them, because I'm growing as well and helping them with these things. It's not always EQ, but that's a lot of it. That's what I'm really passionate about. I think figuring that out was really helpful, 10, 12 years ago, when I figured out that's my thing. That's what I love doing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how to scale this.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how I can reach more people. Not millions. I don't know if I want to be a public speaker or a coach, but doing things like going back to Wabash and teaching it to more students for a week. Like, that really excites me.
That's awesome.
Can I teach a class at another school? Is there public speaking I can do? Or, I'm not really sure exactly how to scale it. Maybe it's working with small businesses that have teams, and I can work with the lieutenants and how to show them that developing their staff's EQ will help their bottom line. I truly believe it. And it helps the workplace. It helps people be more open-minded, changing their focus from themselves to others, just helps your business. So I don't know if that's the route to go. So I'm excited about figuring that out.
That's awesome. So
maybe it's more coffee shops so I can reach more people. Maybe that's the way to do it. So
it's still a work in progress, figuring out exactly, but ultimately, I mean, this goes back to what you were talking about earlier, the activity. I mean, regardless of what the title is, regardless of what the product is, what's the activity that you love doing on a daily basis? And you know that, obviously.
Yes.
You're pretty certain about that. So,
yeah.
Jason, You've answered a lot of questions. I appreciate that. You've provided a ton of information. I'm excited to go back and watch this actually and listen to everything you've said. Again, what's one piece of advice that you would want, or maybe two or three, whatever you want to say, to give to people who are listening right now, or they're in their teens, 20s, or 30s, that you've had through life experience that you want to pass on to anybody who might be listening that's been important for you?
That's a tough one. I mean, to pick one or two. I think it's being interested in other people. I just feel like that's the key to helping humanity, not just your business. If I think of quotes, like the quotes that always come into my mind, the Henry Ford quote of, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
I love that one, yeah.
I really believe in that. If you tell yourself you're not good at something, you never will be. If you tell yourself this is going to happen, chances are it's going to. Like, we're not that amazing as we humans as we think we are. Like, we're animals that have consciousness,
right. Right.
But we're not that far evolved. Like, we can control ourselves with telling ourselves things. Like, it's kind of simple. People will figure these things out. And then I think the whole selfless part of my favorite Harry Truman quote is, you can accomplish anything in life if you don't mind not getting the credit. And that's that level 5 leadership, kind of with Good to Great, Jim Collins. If you don't mind getting the credit, anything can happen.
Wow.
So those are kind of all in the same, being interested in other people and their success and their growth. You're going to succeed by doing that as well, but your focus can't be on you.
Awesome. I love that. Those are two great quotes, by the way.
Those are my favorites.
Good.
Yeah.
So besides the obvious, picking up this book, what's another book or another thing, activity or challenge you want to give out to people to say, hey, this is a way you can start developing yourself and taking yourself to the next level in terms of your communication, your EQ, and accomplishing and achieving the results that you want.
I would find a book in this realm that you like, whether it's Give and Take or Never Eat Alone or Dale Carnegie, whatever connects with you. It could be one of Michael Gladwell's books, Outliers, and those are good. If you want a specific challenge, I like giving really hard challenges.
Good. Let's hear it.
I don't know if I talked to you about this one when we spoke in October, of the 6-in-1 challenge of giving appreciation in 6 different ways in one day.
I don't remember that. No.
So it'd be hard to memorize all these things, but in one 24-hour period, try to give appreciation 6 different times in different ways, in different mediums, okay. Right? So one is verbal, email, social media. I'm gonna forget some of these. Text, gift or service.
Okay.
And I'm spacing on the 6th one, just because we're talking.
Okay. Well.
So the 5-in-1 challenge.
You have a blog about it, though, don't you?
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
So,
and we do it throughout the summer. I'll just pick a day, like 6-in-1 challenge, go. And you don't have to get them all.
Okay.
But you try to show appreciation through these different mediums. And what it does is it'll show you which ones you go to first, which ones you're comfortable with. But you can also, like email, you can tell someone how much you appreciate them in a certain way, and they don't have to be your kind of best friend. It can be further removed. Right. Somebody maybe you admire. And you can get them through email, but you don't have their number. It's digital. Text is another way. Verbal, a gift, a handwritten note. There are different ways of showing appreciation. What it does is, if you do it all in one day, it's starting to train your brain to focus on other people. And then the only way to do this is to really be engaged with you and notice you, and not just say, hey, how are you?
And why is that important? Just for the idea of being interested in other people? Or, I mean, what does that ultimately result in by being appreciative and grateful to other people?
It takes the focus away from you. It takes your blinders off, and you focus on the people around you, and you notice more.
Okay.
Because the other side of it is, you might assume that your coworker knows what you think about them, or your partner, or your wife, or you might just assume they know, your boss.
Yeah.
But they
do.
They might not know, and 2, if they do know, it feels really good to hear it.
Yeah.
So giving honest appreciation is huge, but we have to practice it. So the 6-in-1 appreciation is just it's a way to kind of kickstart it.
Okay. I like that. And it feels good too. I mean, I've found myself the times that I've handwritten thank you notes to people. I mean, you just feel good the fact that you did that and sent out, and almost like it can energize you for the rest of your day even, or to do the other activities you need to accomplish. Hey, I've run over the time that I asked you for, so I really, really appreciate it. This has been fantastic. And hopefully you had fun and are willing to come back again at some point, because there are probably 30 other things I'd love to talk with you about and dive deeper into. But Jason Bridges, where can people pay attention to you, follow you? I know you have a Twitter, and let them know where your blog's at.
JasonMBridges.com.
Okay. That's where your blog is? Okay.
That's the blog. You can find it through all the social media accounts. It's all connected there.
Awesome. And then on Twitter, you're just Jason Bridges, or you're at Nantucket Bikes.
Nantucket by Bike.
Nantucket by Bike.
On Instagram and Twitter, and
Awesome. Man, I appreciate you. This has been fantastic, and good luck with everything.
Thank you for having me. I love talking about this stuff, and I appreciate that you felt that I had something to say about it. So
and you
thank
did.
you.
It's been awesome. I've learned from you before, so I want to get it out to more people, the information and ideas you have, because I've heard it before, and I know it's impactful. So awesome, man. We'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, JJ.
All right.
Thanks.
And I'll stop the recording.